There's more good news on inflation, says the media. And the media would never lie. The media doesn't lie. I just got a chuckle out of this. Jill sent this to me, and for some reason, Jill thinks I don't think inflation is an issue. I do. I just think the way they measure inflation is bad. And actually, when you actually look at the real way you should measure inflation, is worse for many people than what the CPI numbers come in. And I don't mean like, oh, they're measured incorrectly relative to 1970. No. I'm just saying for retirees in particularly, the inflation numbers are bad, and there's a couple reasons which I'll get here in just a second. Worse than what the CPI would say. All right, and a lot of people don't get this, and it frustrates to no end. So anyway, let's go into this. Purchasing power for the average household actually increased from 2019 to 2023, said the CBO. CBO is a Congressional Budget Office. And I'll never forget, I follow this guy who'll go nameless out of San Francisco as a CFP. He's been around for a long, long time. I'll never forget, probably back in 2010 or something like that, he had written on the Journal, I think it was the Journal for Financial Planning, saying the CBO numbers say this, that, and the other, and the CBO they don't ever get, or he didn't say explicit like this, but the CBOs, they hardly ever get anything wrong. I said, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. That's what I knew. Well, before that I knew, but I knew the financial planning, veterans in financial planning aren't as cracked up as they'd like us to think. I'll never forget that. I was like, what? Are you not familiar? I just thought it was crazy. I'll never forget that. Like the CBO, they're always, he didn't say they're always right, but basically they're always spot on, man. They never miscalculate. I said, what? Anyway, but higher earners are still coming out on top. So that's my issue. Earners. We're going to talk about earners. So purchasing power for the average household actually increased from 2019 to 2023, but higher earners are coming on top. All right. A new report released this week showed that inflation may have less impact on a household's bottom lines than months of sticker shock. The agency's analysts took a look at typical household's consumption bundle from 2019, the goods and services representing a year worth of purchase before the pre-pandemic. The researchers then analyzed how much households would pay for that same consumption. This is not how inflation is measured, just FYI. Inflation isn't measured by the same consumption that you had from 2019 measuring to 2023. That's not how inflation is measured in terms of what we look at the CPI. It's just not. Remember, CPI, see this house right here? This house right here, that is the biggest source of CPI. Owner's equivalent rent. How much would it cost for me to rent my house to myself? On top of that, there's another part of CPI, which is rent as well. I don't rent my house. I don't. And I don't rent my house to myself. All right, so why would that be part of my personal CPI? Which is why you need to read my book, Relax and Retire, where I show you how to figure out your own personal CPI, your own personal inflation. Doesn't make sense. Part two of this is transportation. Is either the second or third, I think it's the second largest component of CPI, the buying or leasing of a new or used vehicle. I don't buy a new or used vehicle, so why would that have anything to do with my month-to-month or year-over-year inflation? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you want to look at it as a durable good purchase, you can look at it, like I talk about in my book, but that shouldn't be part of an annualized inflation. It just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, but what they talk about here, which is interesting to me. All right, so again, a consumption bundle, that's what you would think inflation would be. How much does it cost to buy this flower? It was pretty flower. Pretty flower. How much does it cost to buy that pretty flower? All right, 4 years ago, how much does it cost to buy the pretty flower today? That's what you look at inflation. That's what you think it is. That's not how inflation is measured. But in this case, it is a consumption bundle, which I appreciate. All right. And what they're saying is, if you look at the same consumption bundle, the packet of goods we're buying, your purchasing power has actually grown by 2% when you factor in earnings. All right. So let's see here. On average, purchasing power for households increased over the period, they found. The trend did vary by income group, and the highest earner in income saw their purchasing power rise the most. All right. In fact, it costs 2% less when you factor in for your earnings to buy that same bundle of goods than it did 4 years ago. Obviously, this is, the CBO is supposed to be nonpartisan, is very left-leaning, without question it is, and as such, it's going to do whatever they can to support the monarchy that runs the uniparty, that's for sure. All right. Anyway, so it costs 2%. The consumption costs 2% less for the lower earners, but it costs 6.3% less for the higher earners. All right, so the higher earners were benefiting under Obama and benefiting under Biden. They weren't benefiting as much under Trump. All right, so that's just a fact, too. All right, so let's keep going here. But the thing that bothers me the most, the household's purchasing power is impacted by both rising costs and change in income. All right. For example, prices 2019 consumption bundle increased for lower income more than it did for wealthier income. Okay. That's likely because fixed expenses, particularly food and energy, which prices have surged over the past years. Exactly. Food and energy. All right. Those are things you consume on a day-to-day basis. OER, renting your house to yourself, you don't consume. Food and energy are. And both are small potatoes in the overall CPI. All right, so your CPI, once your house is paid off, especially if you retire, is a hell of a lot different than what they're showing you because your personal CPI doesn't use OER. I mean, why would you? It doesn't make any sense. And if I'm not making sense, you need to buy my book, Relax and Retire. It's my most recent published book. But food and energy, I mean, we got air conditioning kicking on now because it's freaking hot here in North Georgia. You see what I'm saying? And I need food. I got a big old belly I got to feed, man. I thought I'll make some tacos tonight. The Costco has this thing called street tacos, which are pretty doggone good. I did make a steak, one of my New York strips for lunch. It tastes good because basically Costco owns me. I'm a slave to Costco. That's just a fact. Anyways, keep going. So right here, still low-income consumers have seen their earnings rise over the past 7 years. Earnings. Retirees don't have earnings. My nose itches, all that smack. There's a smack. No, smack's heroin. What do they call it? Cocaine? I don't know what you call it. I don't do drugs because I like the ladies. And if you like the ladies, you don't do drugs. You shouldn't do drugs too. A great song by a band called Crucial Youth. Be just like me and Mr. T. Be just like me. Drug free. You know why no one ever dies on the A team? Because they don't do drugs. And you shouldn't do drugs too. Drug free. That's Crucial Youth. Mr. T. A-Team Jam. Oh man, such a good song. Crucial Youth crushed. It's funny though, I did see him play a show, like I didn't see him, I saw him on YouTube 2019. The singer's like huge. You let yourself go. And what the hell was it talking about? All right. So food and energy are big components of your personal CPI, especially if you're on a fixed income. Yes, your fixed income is growing with, the adjustments for inflation. I grant you that, but it's not earnings. That's what I'm saying. Are they confusing earnings like you're earning an income? Are you going to labor? You're slaving away at some labor camp. Or are they saying earnings are what you're bringing home? Two different things to me, and I hate to be so precise, but this is just the way my mind works. You got to be very definitive on how you're defining words. Earnings to me means you're working. You've got a job. You're digging ditches for an income. Income, on the other hand, is just the income you got coming in from your Social Security check, your pensions, and whatnot. Your dividend reinvestment. Anyway, I don't buy all this for 2 seconds flat, especially when we know the cost of energy are going through the roof and food is going through the roof. I mean, look, at the end of the day, yes, there'll be some, naysayers. Oh no, because I'm like that. And I got, just yesterday, I got 24 eggs at Costco for $4.99 or something like that. It's $3.99. I can't remember what it was. And but New York strip was going up. It's up $1.50 a pound now from where it was last year. What else did I get at Costco? I can't remember. But I saw something on Target. Target's trying to compete with Walmart. They're lowering their prices. So people say inflation's behind us. I don't buy that for 2 seconds, especially when the price of energy via insane Green New Deal crap is going through the roof. It's bad. So don't believe anything the CBO says without trust and verify. I don't trust the CBO as far as I could kick them. They sourced, it's back in the 90s, I think, the way they used to do budgeting, and I think they still do it. I can't remember what it's called, man. Baseline budgeting, that's what it was. So they basically give you an automatic adjustment on your spending for government. So if you're spending $100,000, they're going to automatically give you a 3% raise for inflation. So a cut to your spending is, instead of spending 103, if you're the Department of Defense, for instance, you only spend 102. We're cutting spending. No, you're not. You're actually increasing your spending by 2%, but the fact that the baseline budgeting is supposed to be 3%, so everyone say we're cutting defense spending. It's so freaking stupid. Yeah. All right. God bless. We'll see you. Love your thoughts.